Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, I want you to picture the scene. The year is 345 CE. You're just a peaceful student, a scholar who traveled far from home just to get a decent education. You've got no money, absolutely zero royal blood, and definitely no military training. Yet, within just a few short years, you are going to bring one of the most powerful ancient empires to its absolute knees. It's crazy, right? Today, we're diving into this incredible transformation, uncovering the dramatic historical journey of a simple scholar whose ultimate humiliation actually birthed the very first royal lineage of Kannada. Let's get into it.
So, how exactly did an insulted scholar build an empire? Honestly, it sounds like the plot of some Hollywood blockbuster, but this is deeply grounded in the historical reality of 4th century India. Our main guy here is Mayura Sharma. And listen, he was not born a warrior. He was born a Brahmin, completely destined for a quiet, peaceful life of Vedic study. But, well, destiny had a much bloodier, far more rebellious path in mind for him. So the big question is, how does a student with literally not a single soldier to his name decide, you know what, I'm going to overthrow the reigning superpower of my time?
First up, Chapter 1, Origins of the Kadamba clan.
Now look at the timeline here. Notice this massive historical gap? Mayuravarma's actual reign spanned from roughly 345 to 365 CE, but get this, many of the records detailing his life didn't actually emerge until the 11th century. That is nearly 700 years later. And because his dynasty, the Kadambas, eventually fell into centuries of political obscurity, people kind of lost sight of their true roots. And you know how it goes. When history fades, human imagination just rushes right in to fill the void. And because of that huge 700-year gap, looking into the Kadambas uncovers some truly wild, fantastical stories. I mean, one myth actually claims Mayura was this four-armed being born from a drop of the god Shiva's sweat. Which, hey, having 4 arms would definitely be super useful for a student drowning in homework, right? But thankfully, we do have grounded historical reality. The authentic Talagunda and Gudnapur inscriptions tell us he was actually born into a totally mortal Brahmin family in a small agrahara called Talagunda. They got the family name Kadamba simply because a really beautiful sacred Kadamba tree happened to be growing near their home. Pretty simple. Now, Mayura's home was in the Banavasi region, which was a place of just immense historical and cultural significance. Banavasi had been this really important center since ancient times. I mean, records even talk about Buddhist monks arriving there way back during Emperor Ashoka's era. The famous poet Pampa, who is often considered the very first poet of Kannada literature, brilliantly captured the deep connection Mayura's people felt for this place. He wrote, "Even if not born as a human, I wish to be born as a bee or a cuckoo in the land of Banavasi." Just beautiful.
Moving on to Chapter 2, The Scholar's Humiliation.
So as much as Mayura absolutely loved Banavasi, it had one pretty major flaw. There were no centers for higher learning. So to keep his education going, Mayura's grandfather sent him far away to Kanchipuram. At the time, this was the undisputed hub of higher learning in South India. But there was a catch. Kanchi was ruled by the Pallava king. It was literally the heart of the mighty Pallava Empire. So Mayura arrives there simply wanting to master the Vedas, completely unaware that he was about to get a totally different kind of education. Which brings us to the inciting incident. How does a student fight an empire? Well, while he was studying in Kanchi, this fierce altercation broke out. A Pallava soldier just brutally insulted Mayura. Now, we don't know the exact words that were exchanged, but the humiliation was so profound, so absolutely devastating, that Mayura just couldn't take it. The sheer arrogance of the ruling Kshatriya warrior class pushed this peaceful Vedic scholar right over the edge. And right then and there, Mayura made a fateful vow. He swore he would teach the Kshatriyas a lesson they would never, ever forget.
All right, Chapter 3, Forging a Rebel Army.
It was officially time for Mayura to put down his sacred texts and literally pick up a sword. He completely transformed himself, mastering horse riding, sword fighting, the whole martial arts shebang. But Mayura wasn't just angry, okay? He was incredibly smart about this. Step 1, he realized Kanchipuram had some major administrative flaws. The Pallava king's ministers and soldiers were actively oppressing the people, and there was a lot of local resentment. So Mayura capitalized on that, uniting the oppressed citizens and attacking isolated soldiers to build up his initial strength. Step 2, knowing he couldn't just hold the capital against an empire, he strategically retreated to the forests of Sri Parvata. Out there, he allied with local groups, trained them up, and built a highly motivated rebel army. And step 3, instead of taking on the emperor directly, he went after the smaller, vulnerable tributary kings under Pallava rule. With every single victory, he grabbed more resources, and his little rebel force just grew stronger and stronger.
Which leads us to Chapter 4, Defeating the Pallava Empire.
Now, at first, the Pallava king basically brushed off Mayura's rebellion as some minor annoyance. He completely underestimated the scholar. Big mistake. As Mayura's territory and influence exploded, the king finally realized, oh, wow, this guy's a massive threat to my throne. So he dispatches a huge, heavily armed military force to wipe Mayura out once and for all. And they decide to use a truly terrifying tactic, a night ambush. Under the cover of total darkness, the Pallava army descends on Mayura's rebel camp, hoping to catch them sleeping and basically just slaughter them all.
But Mayura was no longer that naive student from Banavasi. Even though they were ambushed in the dead of night, his forces absolutely did not break. They fought back valiantly. Mayura's incredible leadership, his personal bravery, and his tactical mastery totally inspired his troops to achieve the impossible. They flipped the script entirely and crushed the mighty Pallava army in no time flat. I mean, just imagine the absolute shock on the faces of the Pallava generals as the night air fills with these deafening victory chants. Jai Mayura Sharma, Jai Mahukeshwara. The empire had literally been broken by the very boy they had mocked.
And the aftermath? That's Chapter 5, the First Kannada Dynasty.
So the Pallava king is now entirely humiliated. He just couldn't contain Mayura's military brilliance, so he was forced to do the unthinkable. He had to sue for peace. And he didn't just ask for a tiny truce either. On an auspicious day, he officially ceded the entire beloved region of Banavasi straight to Mayura. That mighty Pallava influence in the region was officially over, and it was ended by a former university student. No way, right?
This monumental victory marked a complete total identity shift for him. Look at this comparison. On one side, we started with Mayura Sharma. Sharma being the name of a peaceful Brahmin student of the Vedas. But after his stunning victory and his coronation in Banavasi, he officially changed his surname to Mayuravarma. Varma was a title that loudly signaled his new, undeniable Kshatriya warrior identity. He had proven his absolute might on the battlefield and finally fulfilled that vow to teach the empire a lesson.
And with that incredible coronation, the Kadamba dynasty was officially born. Mayuravarma didn't just win a war, he literally established the very first royal lineage of Kannada. He took his own deeply personal humiliation and transformed it into a massive regional awakening. He created an independent, sovereign state that would go on to proudly celebrate its own culture and language for generations to come. It's a real game changer.
Which leaves us with a pretty powerful question to end on. What injustices in your own world might inspire you to completely rewrite your destiny? Think about it. Mayuravarma looked at a totally corrupt system that insulted his very existence, and instead of just backing down and accepting it, he carved out an entirely new empire. It's an absolutely incredible reminder of the power of sheer determination and the total refusal to accept the limits that other people try to place on you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on the legendary Kadamba King. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.